Okay, so andito naman ako, si Lolo Ray, ang inyong lolo na pwedeng mahalin pero bawal ang kinin. Charot. Sa iba palang program yon. Andito pa rin ako para sa programa nating In Layman's Terms. Kung saan itutuloy ko yung pagdidiscuss naman about the Philippine Constitution. Shoutout pala sa iyo, Alain, at natutuwa ako, nagtatanong ka sa akin, sabi mo, bakit nagdidiscuss kaya ng mga batas ngayon? Ang hirap-hirap niyan. Totoo po. Pero ah, tinatry lang natin kasi bahagi ito ng content natin at nasa mood ako ngayon na magbigay ng content na may kinalaman naman sa batas. Kasi yun naman ang pinag-aralan ko naman yun. Ngunit lilinawin ko po sa lahat, ako po ay hindi abogado. Kung kaya't makikinig pa rin po kayo sa mga lawyers, okay? Ito pong mga programa ko lamang dito ay layunin lamang nito magbigay ng konting explanation. Konting explanation regarding sa batas, no? Binabasa ko lang at tinatry kong ipaliwanag yung iba. Ano po? So, yun lang. Okay. Mag-proceed na tayo. Nandoon na tayo sa kailangan kong mag-upload ng mga may kinalaman sa batas para makover ko itong playlist ko na ito na in layman's terms. And at the same time, makabalik na rin ako sa mga problema sa pag-ibig. Pero marami pa tayong batas na itatry nating basahin at ipaliwanag, no? Punta na tayo sa Article 7 ng ating konstitusyon. Ito po ang Executive Department. Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the Philippines. Section 2. No person may be elected president unless he is a natural-born citizen of the Philippines, a registered voter, able to read and write, at least 40 years of age on the day of election, and a resident of the Philippines for at least 10 years immediately preceding such election. So, kailangan residente siya ng Pilipinas 10 taon bago yung election. Section 3. There shall be a vice president who shall have the same qualifications and term of office and be elected with and in the same manner as the president. He may be removed from office in the same manner as the president. The vice president may be appointed as member of the cabinet. Such appointment requires no confirmation. Ang sabi, pwede raw i-appoint sa cabinet position ang isang vice president at hindi na raw kailangan yon ng kumpirmasyon ng Commission on Appointments. Section 4. The President and the Vice President shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years, which shall begin at noon on the 30th day of June next following the day of the election and shall end at noon of the same date 6 years thereafter. Pagkalipas ng 6 na taon, same date magtatapos ang kanyang term. The President shall not be eligible for any re-election. So yung mga nagmamahal kay Pangulong Duterte, sayang at hindi na siya eligible for any re-election. No person who has succeeded as President and has served as much for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time, sabi. No Vice President shall serve for more than 2 successive terms. So itong si Leni Robredo, pwede pa pala siyang kumandidato as Vice President. Voluntary renunciation of the office for any length of time shall not be considered as an interruption in the continuity of the service for the full term for which he was elected, unless otherwise provided by law. The regular election for President and Vice President shall be held on the second Monday of May. The returns of every election for President and Vice President, duly certified by the Board of Canvassers of each province or city, shall be transmitted to the Congress, directed to the President of the Senate. Upon receipt of the certificate of canvass, President of the Senate shall not later than 30 days after the date of the re-election, siya ay i-open niya, shall open all the certificates in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives in joint public session And the Congress, upon determination of the authenticity and due execution thereof in the manner provided by law, canvass the votes. So the person having the highest number of votes shall be proclaimed elected, but in case two or more shall have an equal and highest number of votes, one of them shall forthwith be chosen by the vote of majority of all members of both houses of the Congress, voting separately. The Congress shall promulgate its rules for the canvassing of the certificates. Ang Kongreso po yung nagpo-promulgate ng rules sa pagkakanvas ng certificates. The Supreme Court sitting en banc, sama-sama sila, ibig sabihin, ilang bang justice nila? 15 ba? Hindi po ako sure Pupuntahan natin yan mamaya. Pero en banc, ibig sabihin, sama-sama sila. Lahat ng justices ng Supreme Court. Shall be the sole judge of all contests relating to the election returns and qualifications of the President or Vice President and may promulgate its rules for the purpose. Section 4 ng Executive Department, Article 7. The President and the Vice President shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years which shall begin at noon. Ayan, sinabanggit na natin yan kanina. Parang nalito na ako. Nasa na ba ako? Medyo nalito. May mga naulit pala akong nabasa kasi may mga commercial na lumalabas sa aking app. Okay, sabi sa Section 5, before they enter on the execution of their office, the President, the Vice President, or the Acting President shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and conscientiously fulfill my duties as President or Vice President or Acting President of the Philippines, preserve and defend its Constitution, execute its laws, do justice to every man, and consecrate myself to the service of the nation. So help me God. Yan. Section 6. The President shall have an official residence. Ito yung Malacanang Palace. The salaries of the President and Vice President shall be determined by law and shall not be decreased. Hindi pwedeng babaan ang sweldo nila during their tenure. No increase in said compensation shall take effect until after the expiration of the term of the incumbent during which such increase was approved. So kunwari, na-increase ngayong panahon ni Pangulong Duterte ang kanyang sweldo, ay ang sweldo ng Pangulo, hindi niya ito mapapakinabangan. Yung susunod na Pangulo. Okay? They shall not receive during their tenure any other emolument from the government or any other source. Section 7. The President-elect and the Vice President-elect shall assume office at the beginning of their terms. Yun nga yung sinasabi, the 30th day of June. If the President-elect fails to qualify, the Vice President shall act as President. Acting lamang siya until the President-elect shall have qualified. If a President shall not have been chosen, the Vice President-elect shall act as President until a President shall have been chosen and qualified. If at the beginning of the term of the President-elect shall have died or shall have become permanently disabled, the Vice President-elect shall become President. So kung kunwari, wag namang itulot ng Panginoon, namatay ang Pangulo, yung Vice President ang papalit. Iba po yung nabanggit ko na qualification mag-acting lang siya nun hanggang sa mag-qualify or maka-elect ng bagong Pangulo. Pero ito, pag namatay sa unang bahagi ng term, yung Pangulo o naging baldado, disabled, yung VP ang magte-take over as the President. Hindi na siya acting. Siya na yung magiging Pangulo. Where no President and Vice President shall have been chosen or shall have qualified, or where both shall have died or become permanently disabled, the President of the Senate, or in case of his inability, the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall act as President until a President or a Vice President shall have been chosen and qualified. So mag-acting ang ano po yan, President, Vice President, the ang tawag dito, yung Senate President, tapos yung Speaker ng House. Yan po yung pinakamatatas, no? The Congress shall by law provide for the manner in which one who is to act as a President shall be selected until a President or a Vice President shall have qualified in case of death. Kulang pala yun, in case of death, permanent disability, or inability of the officials mentioned sa nagdaang paragraph. Section 8. In case of death, permanent disability, removal from office or resignation of the President, the Vice President shall become the President to serve the unexpired term. Kagaya po nung nangyari kay Erap, siya po ay nag-resign. Okay? Hindi po siya napatalsik sa pamamagitan ng impeachment. Although nagkaroon ng impeachment trial laban sa kanya, siya po ay nag-resign. Kaya pumalit si Gloria. Okay? Asa na ba ako? Ayun, sunod-sunod ulit sila siya. Sabi dito, in case of death, permanent disability, removal from office or resignation of both President and VP, the President of the Senate, or in case of his inability, yung Speaker daw ng House of Representatives shall then act as President until the President or VP shall have been elected and qualified. The Congress shall, by law, provide who shall serve as President in case of death, permanent disability, or resignation of the acting President. He shall serve until the President or the VP shall have been elected and qualified, and be subject to the same restrictions of powers and disqualifications as the acting President. Magtungo naman tayo sa Section 9. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the Vice President during the term for which he was elected, yung Presidente raw shall nominate a Vice President from among the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, who shall assume office upon confirmation by a majority vote of all members of both houses and Congress voting separately. Yan ha, pagka daw may vacancy ang Office of the President, magno-nominate ang Pangulo. At ito ay pagmobotohan ng majority vote ng bawat ng Kongreso at ng Senado voting separately. Majority ng Kongreso, majority ng Senado. Section 10. The Congress shall, at 10 o'clock in the morning of the third day after the vacancy in the offices of the President and VP occurs, magko-convene sila in accordance with its rules without need of a call, and within 7 days enact a law calling for a special election to elect a President and Vice President to be held not earlier than 45 days nor later than 60 days from the time of such call. The bill calling for such special elections shall be deemed certified under paragraph 2 section 26 article 6 of this constitution and shall become law upon its approval on third reading by the Congress. Appropriations for the special election shall be charged against any current appropriations and shall be exempt from the requirements of paragraph 4 section 25 Article 6 of this Constitution. The convening of the Congress cannot be suspended nor the special election postponed. No special election shall be called if the vacancy occurs within 18 months before the date of the next presidential election. Yan ha, malinaw po yun ha, pero kung ako ito, papakinggan ko na lang ito ulit pagka hindi ko naintindihan, di ba, para mas matanim sa isip. Section 11, whenever the President transmits to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits to them a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. Whenever a majority of all members of the Cabinet transmit to the President of the Senate and to the Speaker of the House their written declarations that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the VP shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President. Thereafter, when the President transmits to the President ng Senate at Speaker of the House his written declaration na wala na raw inability, he shall reassume the powers and duties of his office. Meanwhile, should the majority of all the members of the Cabinet transmit within 5 days to the President of the Senate and to the Speaker of the House of Representatives Their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Congress shall decide the issue. Ayun, period yun. For that purpose, the Congress shall convene if it is not in session within 48 hours in accordance with its rules and without need of call. If the Congress within 10 days after receipt of the last written declaration, or if not in session within 12 days after it is required to assemble, if sa panahon na yon, na-determine nila by a 2/3 vote of both houses, voting separately, that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the VP shall act as President. Otherwise, the President shall continue exercising the powers and duties of his office. Kaya po sa politika, pag may sakit si Pangulo, excited na excited yung kabilang kampo, dahil gusto nila to eh. Gusto nila mag-transmit siya na siya ay may karamdaman at hindi niya nakaya at si VP ang uupo. Acting President. Politika. In case of serious illness of the President, the public shall be informed of the state of his health. The members of the cabinet in charge of national security and foreign relations at yung Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines shall not be denied access to the President during such illness. Section 13. The President, Vice President, the members of the cabinet and their deputies or assistants shall not, unless otherwise provided in the Constitution, hold any other office or employment during their tenure. Bakit sila pinag-uusapan dito? Kasi yung mga cabinet secretaries, they are the alter ego of the President. They shall not, during said tenure, directly or indirectly practice any other profession, participate in any business, or be financially interested in any contract with, or in any franchise or special privilege granted by the government, or any subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, including government-owned or controlled corporations or their subsidiaries. Ganon din naman sa mga senador, di ba? At kongresista. They shall strictly avoid conflict of interest in the conduct of their office. Yan daw asawa at yung mga kamag-anak within the consanguinity or affinity within the 4th civil degree ng Pangulo shall not be appointed during his tenure. Hindi rin sila pwedeng i-appoint as members of the constitutional commissions or sa office of the ombudsman or as secretaries, undersecretaries, chairmen, or heads of bureaus or offices. So kunwari si Vice Mayor Sara Duterte, hindi siya pwedeng i-appoint as DOJ Secretary. Kahit kwalipikado siya bilang isang abogado. Kasama na rin dito yung mga GOCCs at yung mga subsidiary nito. Hindi sila pwedeng i-appoint. Section 14. Appointments extended by an acting president shall remain effective unless revoked by the elected president within 90 days from his assumption or reassumption of office. Sakit sa panga nito. Section 15. 2 months immediately before the next presidential elections and up to the end of his term, a president or acting president shall not make appointments except temporary appointments to executive positions when continued vacancies therein will prejudice public service or endanger public safety. So 2 buwan bago ang halalan, hindi na siya dapat makapag-appoint ng mga sa iba't ibang posisyon. Sabi rito, unless temporary lamang, sa mga executive position lamang. Kapag kinakailangan mapunuan ang mga pagkukulang na ito dahil magkakaproblema sa public service at magkakaroon ng problema sa public safety o sa seguridad nating lahat. Okay. Section 16. The President shall nominate and with the consent of the Commission on Appointments, appoint the heads of the executive departments. Ito yung mga DOJ Secretary, DepEd Secretary, DILG Secretary, etc. ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, or other officers of the armed forces from the rank of colonel o colonel, nakalagay dito, or naval captain, and the other officers whose appointments are vested in him in this constitution. Kasi may mga posisyon na tanging presidente lamang ang pwedeng mag-appoint. He shall also appoint all other officers of the government whose appointments are not otherwise provided for by law, and those whom he may be authorized by law to appoint. The Congress may, by law, vest the appointment of other officers lower in rank in the President alone, in the courts, or in the heads of departments, agencies, commissions, or boards. The President shall have the power to make appointments during the recess of the Congress, whether voluntary or compulsory. But such appointments shall be effective only until disapproved by the Commission on Appointments or until the next adjournment of the Congress. Oh, so kung magpe-presidente ka, kailangan alam mo to. Kailangan alam mo yung buong konstitusyon. Sana kung ikaw ay magpresidente. Sus Maria Josep. Section 17. The President shall have ensure that the laws be faithfully executed. Tandaan po natin, Kongreso, tagagawa ng batas. Executive Department, yung sa ilalim ng Pangulo, tagapagpatupad ng batas. Ang Judiciary, yung mga korte, ay tagapag-interpret ng batas. Ayan ha. Section 18. The President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces of the Philippines, and whenever it becomes necessary, he may call out such armed forces to prevent or suppress lawless violation, invasion, or rebellion. Powers ng Presidente ito. In case of invasion or rebellion, when the public safety requires it, he may, for a period not exceeding 60 days, suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. Nabasa natin to, itong habeas corpus na ito. Or place the Philippines or any part thereof under martial law. Yan yung nangyari dun sa mga Marawi siege. Tama ba? O yung Zamboanga siege, yan, mga ganyan. Within 48 hours from the proclamation of martial law or the suspension of the privilege of the writ person or in writing to the Congress. The Congress voting jointly by a vote of at least a majority of all its members in regular or special session. So, magkakasamang boboto jointly ang Senado at Kongreso, sabi rito. So, yung majority nila may revoke such proclamation or suspension, which revocation shall not be set aside by the President. Igagalang daw ito ng Presidente. Upon the initiative of the President, ang Kongreso daw may, in the same manner, extend such proclamation or suspension for a period to be determined by the Congress if the invasion or rebellion shall persist and public safety requires it. The Congress, if not in session, shall within 24 hours following such proclamation or suspension convene in accordance with its rules without need of a call. The Supreme Court may review in an appropriate proceeding filed by any citizen the sufficiency of the factual basis of the proclamation of martial law or the suspension of the privilege of writ of habeas corpus or the extension thereof and must promulgate its decision thereon within 30 days from its filing. Sabi rito, any citizen. Pero kadalasan, yung mga tutol kunwari sa martial law, ang file sila ng ganito sa Supreme Court, mababalitaan nyo yun. Usually, abogado yan. May abogado na sumasalungat sa desisyon ng Pangulo, ng administrasyon. So, sila yung kadalasang umiepal. Hindi naman umiepal. Sila yung nagpa-file sa Supreme Court. A state of martial law does not suspend the operation of the Constitution nor supplant the functioning of the civil court or legislative assemblies. Hindi rin daw nito pinapayagan yung conferment of jurisdiction on military courts and agencies over civilians where civilian courts are able to function, nor automatically suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. Okay? Ito po kasing konstitusyon ay reaction sa martial law. So parang never again napupunta tayo sa military courts, ano man yung mangyari. Parang ganun. Suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall apply only to persons judicially charged for rebellion or offenses inherent in or directly connected with invasion. So, kunwari, hindi ka naman nasampahan ng kaso or hindi ka naman wanted, hindi ka naman, wala ka naman sa watchlist nila, nakabilang ka sa invasion, ordinaryong tao ka, you can still avail yung pribilehyo ng writ of habeas corpus. Pag nawawala ka, pwede magpetisyon yung pamilya mo sa korte na dalin ka. O kung ikaw man na nakukulong, naipresenta ka sa korte. Sinususpend lang ito para sa mga nasa rebellion, para hindi naman magamit ng mga abogado nila na kung namatay ito sa grupo o sa bakbakan, nagre-rebellion siya o kaya nagtatago siya, paano naman uutusan ng korte yung mga law enforcers na dalhin ang katawan niya sa korte, di ba? O kung nasabugan siya ng bomba dahil nagre-rebellion siya, di ba? During the suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, any person that's arrested or detained shall be judicially charged within 3 days. Kailangan na silang sampahan ng kaso kaagad within 3 days. Kapag merong suspension ang writ of habeas corpus. Otherwise, they shall be released. Ang dami pa nito. Okay. Section 19. Except in cases of impeachment or as otherwise provided in this Constitution, the President may grant reprieves, commutations, and pardons, and remit fines and forfeitures after conviction by final judgment. He shall also have the power to grant amnesty with the concurrence of a majority of all the members of Congress. Pwede siya magbigay ng amnesty sa isang tao. Pwede siya magbigay ng pardon sa isang convicted na tao. Saka na natin pag-aaralan yung mga kahulugan ng pardon, amnesty, or pwede ko naman siya i-research ngayon. Bakit hindi? Sandali lang. Pardon. Ay ibig sabihin ay excuse or forgiveness for a fault, offense, or discourtesy. So, isa sa mga example ng balita, Duterte defends pardon kay Pemberton. Sabi niya, you have not treated Pemberton fairly. Yan. May siya ng pardon. It is a government decision to allow a person to be relieved of some or all of the legal consequences resulting from a criminal conviction. A pardon may be granted before or any after conviction for the crime depending on the laws of the jurisdiction. Ano naman yung amnesty? Napin natin yung amnesty. Amnesty. Ito naman, amnesty is a public act granted rin by the President and should have the concurrence of Congress, sabi nga dito, majority ng boto nila. While yung pardon naman is a private act. Okay, yun lang ang kaibahan nila. Private act, pleaded and proved by the person pardoned. Nang bibigay niyan, Pangulo. Okay? So, yun ang major na pagkakaiba nila, no? Okay. Saan na tayo? Okay. Section 20, the President may contract or guarantee foreign loans on behalf of the Republic of the Philippines with the prior concurrence of the Monetary Board and subject to such limitations as may be provided by law. The Monetary Board shall, within 30 days from the end of every quarter of the calendar year, submit to the Congress a complete report of its decision and application for loans to be contracted or guaranteed by the government o ng government-owned and controlled corporations, which would have the effect of increasing the foreign debt and containing other matters as may be provided by law. Pangyarihan ng Pangulo yan. Kaya ngayon, nakakahanap si Pangulong Duterte raw ng pera. Yan, dahil sa mga loans. May kinalaman doon pag uutang tayo sa ibang bansa, kapangyarihan niya na isang Pangulo, may kinalaman doon ang Monetary Board, sabi nga, di ba? At isusumiti nila yun sa Kongreso. Okay? Kasi tandaan po natin, ang Kongreso ay may oversight functions sa mga executive branch, doon sa mga agencies, sa mga government agencies, para mabusisi nila kung tama ba o naaayon ba sa batas yung ginagawa, di ba? Section 21. No treaty or international agreement shall be valid except unless concurred by at least 2/3 of all the members of the Senate. So yung mga treaty or international agreement, kailangan dyan yung 2/3 ng Senado. Yun lang ang binanggit dito, hindi kasali yung Kongreso. 2/3 ng Senado. Kasi sila yung mga kongresistang pang-nasyonal. Ayan ang logic nun. Di ba? Sila yung, ang congressman, sila yung representative ng bawat local district. Ang mga senador naman, parang glorified congressman yan. Nire-represent nila ang buong Pilipinas. Section 22. The President shall submit to the Congress within 30 days from the opening of every regular session as to the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, a budget of expenditures and sources of financing including receipts from existing and proposed revenue measures. Yun. So, lagi nagsasubmit, no, ang Pangulo. Within 30 days daw. Within 30 days from the opening of every regular session. Sinasubmit niya yung basis. Bakit niya kailangan ng ganon kalaking halaga na aprubahan ng Kongreso para maging budget natin? Section 23, the President shall address the Congress at the opening of his regular session. He may also appear before it at any other time. So, doon nagtatapos sa Article 7, Executive Department. Magtungo naman tayo sa Judicial Department. Pero bago yan, tignan ko gaano karami ito. Sus Maria Joseph, ang dami din. Pero subukan nating birahin. Okay. Article 8, Judicial Department, Section 1. The judicial power shall be vested in one Supreme Court, nag-iisang Supreme Court, and in such lower courts as may be established by law. Duty of the courts of justice to settle actual controversies involving rights which are legally demandable and enforceable, and to determine whether or not there has been a grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or excess of jurisdiction on the part of any branch or instrumentality of the government, period. So doon pinapakita dito na yung korte ay may karapatan na tignan kung ang isang agency ba ay lumagpas sa kanyang kapangyarihan, at sa paglagpas na ito, nawala na siya ng karapatan o ng jurisdiction doon sa kaso o sa kontrobersiyang mayroon. Diba? Sabi ko kanina, ang judicial branch o ang mga korte ang nag-i-interpret ng batas. Section 3. The judiciary shall enjoy fiscal autonomy, o meron silang kalayaan sa pamemera. Ibig sabihin, may kalayaan sila sa kung paano sila kikita itong branch na ito ng government. Appropriations for the judiciary may not be reduced by the legislature below the amount appropriated for the previous year, and after approval shall be automatically and regularly released. So, hindi po pwedeng gumawa ng batas ang Congress na babaan ang kanilang budget. Section 4. The Supreme Court shall be composed of isang Chief Justice at 14 na Associate Justices. So, tama yung sinabi ko kanina. Pag en banc, sama-sama sila. Yung isang Chief Justice at yung 14 na Associate Justice ng Supreme Court. It may sit en banc or in its discretion in division of 3, 5, or 7 members. Kaya may iba-ibang division sa Supreme Court. No? Any vacancy shall be filled within 90 days from the occurrence thereof. All cases involving the constitutionality of treaty, international or executive agreement, or law which shall be heard by the Supreme Court en banc, and all other cases which require the rules of court are required to be heard en banc. Yun daw kinakailangang harapin ng Supreme Court na magkakasama silang lahat ng mga justices doon. Ito daw yung mga nabanggit at including those involving the constitutionality, and application or operation of presidential decrees, proclamations, orders, instructions, mga ordinansa, and other regulations shall be decided with the concurrence of a majority of the members who actually took part in the deliberations on the issues in the case voted thereon. So, majority. So, dahil 15 sila, 8. Okay? Cases or matters heard by a division shall be decided or resolved with the concurrence of a majority of the members who actually took part. So, kung 3 yung miyembro ng isang division, 2. Kailangan yung boto ng 2. When the required number is not obtained, the case shall be decided en banc, provided that no doctrine or principle of law laid down by the court in a decision rendered en banc or in division may be modified or reversed except by the court sitting en banc. So, sabi nga, Supreme Court lamang ang pwedeng magpalit sa nagdaanan nilang desisyon. Pero pwede lang nila itong gawin en banc, sama-sama, all together. The 15 justices of the Supreme Court. Section 5. The Supreme Court shall have the following powers. Exercise original jurisdiction over cases affecting ambassadors, public ministers, consuls, and petitions for certiorari, prohibition, mandamus, quo warranto, and habeas corpus cases. So, kailangan sila daw ang may karapatan ng original. Meron silang original na jurisdiction sa mga kaso na patungkol sa mga ambassador, public minister, consuls, at over do sa mga petisyon o yung mga kahilingan ng certiorari. Okay? Ito yung review. Uri yata ng review. Ito basta pagkakalam ko 2 uri ito eh. Isang certiorari yata under Rule 45, which is, ano ba yun? Which is an appeal. At Rule 60 something, 65 ba yun? Which is in itself a civil action. O basta, research na lang yan. Certiorari, prohibition o pagbabawal, mandamus o yung pag-uutos ng pagpapatupad, quo warranto, yung nangyari kay Justice Sereno, kung saan finala siya ng quo warranto na wala naman pala siyang karapatang umupo sa pwesto na yon, kaya kailangan siyang alisin doon. And habeas corpus, yung ipresenta ang katawan sa before the courts. Okay. Meron din silang kapangyarihan to review, revise, reverse, modify, or affirm on appeal or certiorari as the rules of the court may provide final judgments and orders of lower courts in all cases in which the constitutionality or validity of any treaty, international or executive agreement, law, presidential decree, proclamation, order, instruction, ordinance, or regulation is in question. Letter B. Sa lahat ng kaso involving the legality of any tax imposed, assessment, or toll, or any penalty imposed in relation thereto. Letter C. All cases in which the jurisdiction of any lower court is in issue. Letter D. All criminal cases in which the penalty imposed is reclusion perpetua or higher, 40 years na pagkakabilanggo, o hanggang sa pang-ahabang buhay na pagkakabilanggo, o kung may existing death penalty, At letter E, all cases in which only an error or question of law is involved. May pagkakamali o ang katanungan lamang ay may kinalaman sa batas. Okay? Ano pa ba? Kapangyarihan din ng Judicial Department na mag-assign temporarily ng judges of lower courts to other stations as public interest may require. Such temporary assignment shall not exceed 6 months without the consent of the judge concerned. Kailangan payag si judge. Kailangan payag si judge para lumagpas siya ng 6 months. Kunwari, ako taga-Subic ako, nilagay mo ako sa Mindanao, hindi na valid yung appointment ko pag ayoko na. Meron din silang kapangyarihan to order a change of venue or place of trial to avoid miscarriage of justice. Parang yun nangyari sa Maguindanao Massacre. Imbis na sa Maguindanao siya i-prosecute, nilipat nila sa somewhere in Maynila. 'Di ba? Kasi parang hawak yata ng mga ampatuan lahat ng mga ano dun eh. Okay? Meron din silang kapangyarihan to promulgate rules concerning the protection and enforcement of constitutional rights, pleading, practice, and procedure in all courts. The admission to the practice of law, yan. Yung pagtanggap sa mga nag-aabogas siya. The integrated bar, and legal assistance to the underprivileged. Such rules shall provide a simplified and inexpensive procedure for the speedy disposition of cases. It shall be uniform for all courts of the same grade, and it shall not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights. Kung ano lang yung karapatan ng isang tao na nakatagtaas sa batas, yun lang yun. Hindi pwedeng taasan, hindi pwedeng babaan. Rules of procedure of special courts and quasi-judicial bodies shall remain effective unless disapproved by the Supreme Court. Isa pang kapangyarihan nila, appoint all officials and employees of the judiciary in accordance with the civil service law. Ayan. Sandali lang, mag-break lang ako. Okay, tuloy ang laban. Asa na ba tayo? Section 6, the Supreme Court shall have administrative supervision over all courts and the personnel thereof. Section 7. No person shall be appointed as a member of the Supreme Court or any lower collegiate court unless he is a natural-born citizen of the Philippines. A member of the Supreme Court must be at least 40 years of age and must have been for 15 years or more a judge of a lower court or engaged in the practice of law in the Philippines. The Congress shall prescribe the qualifications of judges of lower courts, but no person may be appointed judge thereof unless he is a citizen of the Philippines and a member of the Philippine Bar. So, kailangan daw siya ay citizen ng Pilipinas at siya ay member of the bar o siya ay isang abogado. So ako po ay hindi maaari sapagkat hindi po ako abogado. Number 3, a member of the judiciary must be a person of proven competence, integrity, probity, and independence. Section 8. A judicial and bar council is hereby created. So mayroon silang nagawang isang council. Under the supervision of the Supreme Court, ito yung mga members niya. Chief Justice as ex officio chairman, Secretary of Justice, and a representative of the Congress as ex officio members, a representative of the integrated bar o yung samahan ng mga abogado, a professor of law, a retired member of the Supreme Court, and a representative of the private sector. Ito pa, the regular members of the council shall be appointed by the President. Pangulo ang mag-a-appoint for a term of 4 years. Bayan, nakakahulog. For a term of 4 years. The professor of law for 3 years. Yung retired justice, 2 years. And the representative of the private sector for 1 year. Siguro pwede ako doon sa representative ng private sector. Mga, ano bang sektor ang nire-represent ko? Ewan ko. The clerk of the Supreme Court shall be the secretary ex officio of the council and shall keep a record of its proceedings. Ito meron pa. The regular members of the council shall receive such emoluments as may be determined by Supreme Court. Siyempre may special silang mga natatanggap na awards. The Supreme Court shall provide in its annual budget the appropriations for the council. So kasama yan sa budget ng Supreme Court na pinapasa sa Kongreso. The council shall have the principal function of recommending appointees to the judiciary. Sila lamang ang pwedeng recommend. Kaya palakasan yan eh. Yung i-recommenda lang nila, yun lang ang pwede. Kaya mga abogado na gustong mag-judge, kanya-kanyang palakasan. It may exercise such other functions and duties as the Supreme Court may assign to it. Section 9. The members of the Supreme Court and judges of the lower courts shall be appointed by the President from a list of at least 3 nominees. Ito na yon. Sila lamang ang magno-nominate sa Pangulo. Ang magpe-prepare nun ay yung Judicial and Bar Council sa bawat vacancy na meron sa Supreme Court. Yung mga appointments daw nito ay hindi kailangan ng kumpirmasyon. Para naman sa mga lower court judges, the President shall issue the appointments within 90 days from the submission of the list. Palakasan pa rin, Section 10. The salary of the Chief Justice and of the Associate Justices of the Supreme Court and of judges of lower courts shall be fixed by law. During the continuance in office, their salary shall not be decreased. Section 11. The members of the Supreme Court and judges of lower courts shall hold office during good behavior until they reach the age of 70 years or become incapacitated to discharge the duties of their office. Hanggang sa 70 years old sila or kung kahit wala pa silang 70 pero kung hanggang sa hindi na nila kayang gawin yung kanilang tungkulin. The Supreme Court and banks shall have the power to discipline judges of lower courts or order their dismissal by a vote of a majority of the members who actually took part in the deliberations on the issues in the case and voted thereon. Kaya tayo Section 12. The members of the Supreme Court and of the other courts established by law shall not be designated to any agency performing quasi-judicial or administrative functions. Hindi mo pwedeng i-appoint si judge as o yung mga members ng Supreme Court sa mga kunwari administrative ng police, napulcom o ano pa ba, hindi pwede. Doon lang sila sa korte. Section 13. The conclusions of the Supreme Court in any case submitted to it for decision en banc or in decision shall be reached in consultation before the case is assigned to a member for the writing of the opinion of the court. Kaya may opinion yung bawat justices, di ba? A certification to this effect signed by the Chief Justice shall be issued and a copy thereof attached to the record of the case and served upon the parties. Any members who took no part or dissented, ito yung mga kumontra, or abstained, yung mga hindi sila nakibahagi sa decision or resolution, must state the reason thereof. Bakit ka hindi nakibahagi? Bakit ka kumukontra? The same requirements shall be observed by all lower collegiate courts. Section 14. No decision shall be rendered by any court without expressing therein clearly and distinctly the facts and the law on which it is based. Kailangan may basehan yung decision mo na batas. No petition for review or motion for reconsideration of a decision of the court shall be refused due course or denied without stating the legal basis. So pag na-deny ang isang motion for reconsideration ng abogado, ang isang petition for review niya, kailangan ipaliliwanag ng korte kung bakit. Bakit ka namin dineny? Section 15. All cases or matters filed after the effectivity of this Constitution must be decided or resolved within 24 months from the date of submission for Supreme Court. And unless reduced by the Supreme Court, ngayon yata 90 days na lamang, 12 months for all lower collegiate courts and 3 months for all other lower courts. Ang ibig sabihin 90 months kapag submitted for decision na ang isang kaso. 90 days pala. I'm sorry. Ayun. A case or matter shall be deemed submitted for decision or resolution upon the filing of the last pleading, brief, or memorandum na nire-require ng rules of court or by the court itself. So minsan gagawa naman tayo rules of court para maintindihan natin mga ordinaryong tao ano ba yung mga rules na sinusunod ng mga abogado sa pagbibista nila sa korte. Lakas ng ulan. Number 3. Upon the expiration of the corresponding period, a certification to this effect signed by the Chief Justice or the presiding judge shall forthwith be issued, a copy thereof attached to the record of the case or matter and served upon the parties. The certification shall state why a decision or resolution has not been rendered or issued within the said period. Despite the expiration of the applicable mandatory period, the court, without prejudice to such responsibility as may have been incurred in consequence thereof, shall decide or resolve the case or matter submitted thereto for determination without further delay. Justice delayed is justice denied, no? Tandaan natin yan. Section 16, panghuling section ng Article 8 ng Judicial Department, sabi rito, the Supreme Court shall within 30 days from opening of each regular session of the Congress submit to the President and the Congress an annual report on the operations and activities of the judiciary. Sasabit silang report sa Pangulo at sa Kongreso. Kung ano-ano ba mga pinagkakabalahan nila, ano? Pumunta naman tayo sa Constitutional Commission. Sus Maria Josep, tignan muna natin. Okay. Aha. Okay. Article 9. Ito naman yung mga constitutional commissions. Wait lang. I-postpone ko na muna to. Nasa Article 9 na tayo, ano? Kasi sobrang lakas yung ulan. Baka mag-brown out anytime. So muli, ito pa rin si Lolo Ray. Thank you sa tatlong nanonood sa akin ngayon. Maraming salamat. Sana may natutunan kayo. So magtatapos tayo sa Article 9. Tutuloy natin to, okay? Goodbye.